I believe we should be live. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our next panel of the day. Just to kick it off, my name is Zachary Friedman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at GDA Capital. Today, I'm fortunate to be joined by esteemed panelists, Olaf Hannemann, Arun Kant, and Simon Telian. I'll give you a brief background on each of them, and today we're here to talk about disruptive technology markets in the VC landscape. Each of the gentlemen here with me today have very storied careers across finance, investment banking, and venture capital, with specific focuses on both high growth and Web 3.0 and technology markets. So I'll start first and foremost by introducing Arun Kant. Arun Kant is a venture capitalist, entrepreneur, and technologist who's focused primarily today on blockchain, AI, AR, VR, IT software, infrastructure for enterprise, data analytics, and open source technologies. He's worked for over 20 years as a product-centric founder, general manager, and CEO at both startups and Fortune 500 companies across US, Europe, and Asia. Arun has a track record of tremendous success investing in many leading transformational companies across a spectrum of broad tech markets, and really assisting these companies in growth. We're also joined by Simon Telian, who's an MD at Blockchain AG and the CEO at Nakamo.to. Simon is an entrepreneur with a passion for impact investing, and many years of experience in developing global ventures. He's currently serving as an executive board member at Advanced Blockchain AG, where he actively invests in the Web3 ecosystem. After holding various positions at Rocket Internet and Asia Venture Group, he founded his company in South Africa, which he also later successfully exited. And most recently, he was responsible for the operational business for the Swedish edge cloud company, Cloud Backend AB. And finally, we have Olaf Hannemann, who is a co-founder of CVVC. He's also the founder of Intaba Finance AG, the co-founder of Nourish Me, and a venture partner at Alpine Exits. It seems like we lost Arun, so Tali, maybe just try and sync up with him. And Olaf, prior to his current roles, had spent over 20 years in corporate investment banking at JP Morgan Chase in Switzerland, the UK, and Germany, and has approximately 10 years experience advising the chemical industry as well. He also worked in M&A and corporate finance, where he most recently led the global corporate banking business in Switzerland at JP. So gentlemen, although I gave a brief background, I think it would be relevant to have you guys give a brief introduction, 30 seconds about yourself and maybe your current role and how that intersects with the world of venture capital, technology, and blockchain. Why don't we start with Simon? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Simon Telian, joined Advanced Blockchain AG roughly about 2 years ago as a board member, first off, and now responsible as a managing director for our investment portfolio, also the investments we're doing through our portfolio companies. A little bit background about Advanced Blockchain AG. We got established in 2017 as a publicly listed ecosystem developer in the blockchain space. And we have been very dedicated from the very first one in advancing the blockchain industry by increasing the utilities, adoption, and perception of this massive technology. So from our standpoint, it has become clear that interoperability, so the ability of different blockchains, layers, and protocols to communicate with each other, is the preeminent issue preventing mass utilization of the blockchain technology today. Therefore, our primary mission of Advanced Blockchain and our portfolio companies is really to push that interoperability in the industry forward and improve scalability, utility, and user-friendliness of that technology. And the relationship to venture capital in that sense of our company is that we do strategic investments, but we also incubate our own ventures. So we're kind of like taking a holistic approach when it comes to venture capital.
I think that's shared pretty broadly across the group here, so I'm excited to dive into some of that later. Olaf, why don't you do the same, please?
Sure. Thanks, and thanks for having me. Olaf Hannemann, you gave the background, so 20 years in banking, corporate finance, and then my main role is that of the co-founder of CVVC. CVVC were based out of Zug, blockchain dedicated early stage venture capital. with a focus on startups that build applications based on blockchain technology. So we take quite a traditional VC approach on our investment selection. We like to go early. We have our own incubator program we ran twice, and otherwise also focus on direct investments, early stage seed, pre-AA rounds. In addition to kind of the investment side, we also operate what we call CV Labs, which is our own ecosystem business, which has co-working spaces dedicated for blockchain companies, events large and small, startup competitions, and advisory connecting the blockchain and the corporate world. With a base in Zug, we have a CV Labs in Vaduz in Liechtenstein as well. Recently opened in South Africa, and this week announced a CV Labs initiative and drive in South Africa for the African continent. In terms of investments, we've done 30 investments, 17 different countries, 4 different continents. So we're quite broad.
Awesome. And Arun, are you with us right now? Still might be experiencing technical issues. Just Arun, just let me know if you you managed to get back online here. Gentlemen, I think that with respect to the mentioned topic with respect to incubation, I think I'll we do have Arun. You were just on mute, Arun, but we were just going over brief introductions if you and what you're currently focused on, your most recent role, and how that intersects with disruptive technology and blockchain through the venture capital landscape. You just need to unmute yourself, I believe. All right. Well, I'll continue here. So I think that what you guys mentioned with respect to incubation is something that is part and parcel, I believe, with venture capital today. As capital is becoming more and more competitive in a global landscape. Companies early stage all the way to late stage are looking for strategic capital to be involved. So, I want to ask you guys, what kind of first and foremost, what do VCs and kind of private equity investors need to do to differentiate themselves, to these companies?
Olaf, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think it depends. It depends on the sector that you're in and also the stage that you're in. Frankly, for us, how we try to differentiate is through that sector focus and through what I mentioned, what we call the ecosystem business, where we're trying to be not just smart capital, but we say more than smart capital, i.e., if you are dedicated to one, either industry or to one technology stack, which the latter is for us, how can you provide additional value add over and above, smart capital choices and a smart portfolio and a smart investment team that helps the startups. So that's our approach to the value add through kind of, if you will, providing the whole ecosystem. And maybe I can give an example or two, so it gets more feasible. If you're a startup and you're joining kind of our incubator, and by the way, true story. So say you're a startup out of, and then there's few and far tech, blockchain tech experts kind of in your local network. You come to our incubator for 3 months, join us in Zug. Well, in our co-working space, you'll meet, Tezos Foundation, Cardano people. Polkadot is just around the corner because it's such a close ecosystem in Switzerland. So you'll meet kind of a totally different ecosystem, and not only do you have a network of the 10 other startups that you incubate, but 130 tenants. And once we do an event, it's kind of broader than say a demo day of a regular VC. So that's our approach to differentiate is not through the capital close-knit access to the ecosystem.
Yeah, I can just add on to that. We're following a similar approach indeed. So we are actually collaborating a lot of also with universities or organizations who are really dedicated to build out the ecosystem. So Advanced Blockchain Energy is now focusing massively on decentralized finance. We're also starting a couple of leading programs in that field with leading universities in Europe. So I think it's really, like Olaf said, creating that kind of ecosystem or giving the young founders access to that ecosystem very, very early on, so they can really speak to the pioneers in that field. And being an early investor in Polkadot in 2017, we also have close relationships with the founders of Ethereum and Polkadot, and so giving us additional access to those networks.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think it goes without saying that offering, those governance, the relationships, expertise really goes a very long way with these startups. And it's something we do actively at GDA through our ventures arm, where we are very, very intently focused today on the incubation of those companies as well, and providing as much resources and expertise, having seen and worked firsthand with over 40 different digital asset offerings, as a partner advisor, we kind of work together, and there's lots to be learned. So Arun, I hope you're with us now.
Thank you.
Fantastic, no problem. I would love to just backtrack for a moment. Have you just tell us a little bit about Leonie Capital and your focus there as a venture capitalist,
Are a 2.3 billion US fund based out of Singapore, and our investment disruptive technology. And you can count like companies like PayPal, Alibaba, SpaceX, Tesla, Moderna, Gilead, and pharmacies, and many others. 37 companies to the portfolio. So our focus has been always that we are about 9 to 10 years ahead in investment technologies. That's how we have been operating for past 25 years plus. Introduction on Leoniehill Capital.
Short but sweet, and you definitely have a very storied career of investments. Some of the names you mentioned: Tesla, SpaceX, PayPal. I guess you guys followed the Elon Musk train from an early day, which is great. But
yes, we have known each other with Peter Thiel for a very long time, and so it's an ecosystem of disruption, right?
Of course. And, I truly believe, the concept to me of the PayPal mafia, and those who in the early internet days were really paving the way through high growth technology is something that, I'm seeing emulated here in the blockchain ecosystem, and I'm proud to, consider a lot of my peers and colleagues that I've been surrounded by over the last 7+ years to really be, what I would consider the next generation of leaders in the high growth technology sector.
Sure.
So I think that, curious to ask you guys, what do you think about, investment for LPs through your own vehicles versus getting exposure in different ways, be it through public vehicles or even through purchasing of, just underlying digital assets? How do you see what you guys are offering as advantageous to those LPs?
Zachary?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, the digital assets, if you look at it, there are many digital, and the LPs, when they look into buying an asset, it's difficult for them to basically do a due diligence on many that's which they have. What we provide is a basket of assets which they can invest and then diversify their risk appetite. Mm-hmm. So this way, you get into technologies which are, riskier. We don't. Example, will you invest in Matic, or will you invest in Solana, or will you other assets, right? What we give is a basket of gaming or a protocols stack currencies where you can basically invest, and this is why we have been very successful in diversifying the assets.
Fantastic. Do you guys have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think maybe two additional elements, or actually one goes the same way that Arun mentioned. I think for blockchain in particular, there's an interesting challenge as well as opportunity for investors how to get exposure, because you can look from everything that is quite short-term trading, arbitrage, volatility, liquid crypto, all the way to long-term, very traditional venture capital approaches, right? And then there's stuff in between on the token dynamics. And then there's some understanding that you require if you have a mixed token and equity model in terms of the token and equity dynamic. So there's various ways to get exposure. I would say all of them relatively high risk, high return. So what you want to do, as Arun said, is diversify. Now our focus on the kind of traditional we take equity in startups that build applications VC side. I would compare similar to kind of the early internet investor days, and and say, hey, listen, it's everybody is smart in hindsight, right? But before Google became the dominant one, how many good-looking and feeling search machines were out there, and who knew which one would be the dominant one? So you rather have a portfolio at this point in time of this young industry. And this is specific for the VC element, but obviously there's a lot of other elements that are much more liquid and short-term in nature.
Yeah, to add, thank you very much, Olaf. Add to it, it is just not the crypto or blockchain investment which people are interested, but they also are interested in the financing aspect of it, which is gives them an instant exposure. So you can think of it as like a hybrid fund model, where you have index funds and you have ETFs and you have. But imagine if you act as a VC, where what you do is that you invest in traditional startups, you invest in blockchain startups, you invest in any mechanism which are not currently very popular, like the companies which have selling NFTs, gaming tokens, and protocol stacks and all. So
even you look at like the subset of the metaverse, the indexes happens to be way up this week. It's difficult for people to differentiate, and they are looking for that broad exposure in some cases.
That's what we do. So what we have done is that the 35% of the portfolio is into assets where it is very difficult for people to basically look around and invest because it is by invite, and it's not easily, people don't sell it easily, and you have to do a lot of due diligence because there are 150 or 200 such tokens in the market, right? So it has been a good venture for us till now.
To add to this also, Arun, thank you for that. I think that's why it is so important if you decide to take this holistic approach to really create synergies among the incubated companies and the portfolio companies, because that's what we really saw. Like we recently established a firm called Stellar Labs, a smart contract auditing firm, which are now also able to audit our own projects. And that's what's really needed, because then you can explain the business model behind this new incubated ventures much easier, and the investor or the LPs behind the fund also understand much easier the use case for the newly established ventures.
True.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it all brings up good points, and really something, Olaf, I believe you touched on was the different liquidity profiles, especially through hybrid structures of equity and tokens, is definitely creating like unique investment models. Whereby some of these VC investments would typically be very illiquid from an early stage. It actually presents the opportunity to pivot and disrupt models. And I think for smaller funds or earlier stages, it's easy to become kind of like a hybrid, more of a hybrid structure and a managed fund model where you can benefit off the economic arbitrage, take tokens for upside and as part of the investment, which changes the deal structure. I wonder how you guys see the tokenization and fractionalization of both equity and these hybrid deal structures affecting your investment theses, timelines, and even just existing fund structures.
Well, it will not have a much effect if we take tokens. It is, again, it's different regulators think differently, right? So we have US regulators thinking differently, Singapore MAS regulators thinking differently, Canadian regulators thinking differently, and European regulators are thinking differently. But what we have done is that instead of going into a mess with regulations, imagine you first start with plain vanilla shareholding structure, okay? And then the shares technically, or some part of the shares are issued as a token, right? So what we say is that technically a token is a digitized form of a share, okay? So it has the same functionality as the share, okay, but it is in digital form, okay? Technically, all the shares in Singapore, as an example, are in digital form, right? So it's not much different. We have not ventured in a pure tokenization environment where the investor does not have any say in the company. So for us, it is an asset where an investor gets benefit from the how the company performs or how the foundation performs, and that's where I think we have found a lot of regulatory barrier removed for us, because currently we have about 14 companies which we have tried the hybrid model, okay, and we have got permissions and it is working well, and we think in the future we will increase the shareholding capacity, tokenization capacity from 25-30% to maybe 50%, okay, and I think that model will evolve over time.
And at the end, the equity and the token space just go hand in hand. We also
Correct.
have a use case with one of our portfolio companies called Peak.io, which is an IoT-oriented DLT layer bridging enterprise with the Web3 ecosystem. And they just closed a $3 million investment for equity and now actually preparing for their token raise. Because they also realize the more people they can actually participate in the network of the token, the stronger the use case at the end will get. And this company has been in the making for 3 years now, Advanced Blockchain. Now we spun the company out, so it's completely privately held as well, and now can also, go full force in the token sphere, and we see a lot of opportunities there.
Awesome. And yeah, I think that what we've definitely seen as a change in the landscape between 2017 and now with respect to token projects is that hybrid structure chains. People are, really bringing in capital in a traditional way and really focused on getting adoption awareness, building sustainable technology. And it's made the space more sustainable is the right word, which is great because we're seeing real projects get to market and actually get some traction and development before launching an IEO and ICO. So I guess, when we talk about just tokenization of projects, I think it would be interesting to hear you guys' perspectives on, what your thoughts are around tokenizing funds and actually having your LPs redemptions or, your own models. Have any of you guys considered that internally as a method of raising capital and distribution?
What can you explain to me what you're asking about? Is conversion of tokens into liquid or
conversion of the ownership of your funds into tokens?
So that each token basically represents a share in the fund.
Yes, actually, we have done that. That's what I said, that 25% of the fund of the equity is in tokens. Which basically carries that you can redeem the tokens, you can transfer the tokens, and the only difference is that it is digitized and you can put it in wallet and you can transfer through a smart contract within the wallets, and it goes through the same process as a regular share.
With advanced blockchain, we have a slightly different approach because we're publicly listed on different stock exchanges in Germany since 2017. So we can't just say, some token now represent the share in the equity, but we truly also discover ways now to tokenize some of our assets and let a broader audience basically participate in the success of our company.
So on our side, haven't done it, are clearly considering it. I think it's a very attractive potential way to democratize also access to different types of capital for different investor groups. I think there's one element of risk in particular if you're kind of a traditional VC, take a traditional VC approach, which is it may have that perception of all of a sudden something is shorter term or more liquid, and I'm a firm believer that early stage startup investments do need time. So I want to make sure that investors understand that and have the patience to invest alongside.
And do need more time also from a regulation point of view. We still don't really know what's happening in Europe. We're still waiting for clear answers. I read an article yesterday that the European Central Bank finally agreed on a digital euro, but I think it will be a long process until they finally get there.
Sure. The good thing in Switzerland is we're a bit on an island in a positive way in terms of regulation. So Switzerland is a little ahead of kind of, I would say, the Eurozone in terms of very early and clear regulatory approach towards digital assets and how they're treated and how they get incorporated, actually kind of included in the existing law, which I think is one of the key reasons why there's such a strong ecosystem here.
Yeah, it is fantastic, and Canada's been defining its regulatory roadmap as well. It's taken a bit of an aggressive stance, as it has historically in these sort of matters. But I think that most of us at this point are of the mind that any of this regulation just provides a clear pathway and is beneficial. So I think we have time for one or two small questions, and I have a list of a few from the audience. So I'll ask my last question, then I'll just read that list for a bit. What do you guys think are I guess, the most exciting opportunities or subsets of the digital asset sector that you're most interested and focused on? I think that, the obvious ones that come to mind when we consider DeFi, NFTs, the metaverse are front of mind, likely for a lot of us and attendees here. Is there anything else, be it privacy or use cases, that you guys think would be, most exciting? We'd love to hear your perspectives.
Yeah, I think those are the ones. What I would say, in particular, in terms of the NFT space, is that that in my mind is still being thought about too narrow, i.e., it's the whole art thing going on and a bit of gaming and collectibles and whatnot. I believe there's a potential for any brand, right? In my mind, any brand and any company needs to think of that NFT tech opportunity the way they ought to have thought about social media marketing 10 years ago, and probably fell half asleep on it, because I think any brand in the future will need an NFT strategy. So that's one. And clearly DeFi. Listening to the prior panel, I'm still a big believer that large cap, also corporate finance and applications will succeed. I just think they need a lot more time and a lot more certainty and longer test cases before they get implemented. But I think long term it'll change the way finance is being conducted, both through DeFi, but also in kind of the old world, if you will.
What we are looking is that there are certain gaps in the technologies where we have been watching for past 7 to 8 years, specifically with respect to the insurance segment and the segment, and very specifically also the transfer of funds from one country to another, which has not made any headway. So currently with MAS, which is the regulatory body in Singapore, we are testing a...
You muted yourself, Arun. Just at the bottom under your video, there should be a microphone button if you press it with your mouse. It should be the second button. All right. Well, let's jump over to Simon for a moment, and thank you for the comments. I think just quickly that the remittance market is something that a lot of people have been working on globally. A lot of different payment operators and some innovative blockchain companies, and represents quite a interesting global market, and it ties into one of the audience's questions in a moment. But Simon, before I jump into that, I would love to.
Yeah, just very briefly to fill in, and I totally agree to what Olaf said before. I see a huge opportunity in NFTs, really also leveraging corporate life and traditional businesses tremendously. We also have a couple of use cases in-house at Advanced Blockchain where we're diving in deeper now, and we're seeing that there's a huge demand for also bridging the NFT space with the DeFi space. And so we're really looking forward to discovering that more, and also engaging heavily in that space now.
Yeah, we're working on incubating an NFT technology play that we're extremely excited about, and I think that as Olaf put so well, in 2000 every company was adopting an internet strategy. In 2009, that became a social strategy. 2016, a digital strategy, and today that blockchain strategy and the NFT strategy is part and parcel. Be it in any form of sports, any creator economy, music economy, art economy. There's some amazing kind of opportunities through the technology that NFT permits, even in kind of real estate, deeds of houses, etc., fine art. Those are things that GDA have been pretty actively focused on and are really excited about in the next coming years and investing resources into it.
And most recently also the sports sector. I mean, I recently spoke also to Mike Ward from the GDA group, right? And huge use cases in the sports sector. We're not talking about NBA Top Shots or something. We're really talking about use cases where you actually can do something with the NFT, which represents value and where you can actually, leverage your favorite sportsman in a way you want to do.
100%, and that'll exist for teams, and I think is really there'll be no shortage of NFT companies. I look at them as record labels where independently they'll be able to represent and support groups of different creators in the economy. So very excited to see how those applications progress, and considering some of your backgrounds here in that intersection of disruptive technology, how that's going to play into VR, AR, and some additional technology crossovers. So I believe we only have about a minute here. Really quickly, maybe I will put it to one of you, and anyone feel free to take this. We have an attendee from Africa who said, how can I better access disruptive technology investments as an individual from African third world country, leveraging blockchain technology? So I think there's some interesting applications, and maybe good to have one of you touch on that for a moment.
Yeah, Olaf, maybe hence you established your office recently in South Africa. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so at this point, we're investing into Africa from our general fund certificate, with the opening of our CV labs there. We'll screen more detailed for the Africans. But I think we'll have a dedicated approach and also a dedicated portfolio on the continent. For now, it's feeding into our global funnel. So there, unfortunately, I don't have the perfect investment solution yet. I would say try and connect with some of the local players. Check out on our webpage CV Labs and reach out for the African folks. I do think there's a whole lot of use cases that are there, and obviously, the whole leapfrogging potential of technology in the continent is massive, and also, quite frankly, crypto adoption is very, very strong on the continent. So there's a natural, I would say, bias towards this technology from that early crypto adoption.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for all of your contributions today. And, I'd love to connect independently. Thanks for attending and joining. And I hope the audience really gained some valuable insights, which I believe there were many. So cheers, everyone. Have a fantastic day.
Great meeting you. Ciao.
Thanks.